As you can see, we've got a lovely crop here. We destroyed the cover crop, or not quite destroyed it earlier on. The drill went through beautifully, the soil was dry on the top and crumbly, placed the seed brilliantly, and you can see now we've got a brilliant crop. So important to manage those cover crops really well, I feel. But how is it done for the soil compared to where it's in at the other end of the field and we let the cover crop run for much longer? I'm going to get Dick to have a look in the bottom and see how that cover crop has performed in this crop where we've got a lovely establishment. So I'll hand over to you, Dick, to run through the soil.
Okay, Jeff, thank you. Yeah, I think one of the most important things Jeff said there was management of the cover crop. It does need managing in the correct way, depending on when you've drilled it, what your following crop is going to be, the drill type that you have. You do need to make sure that you're managing the cover to fit with the system that you have, and that management can take several guises. So we actually just used a drill here. It could have been a tine drill, it could have been a tine cultivator. Going through and knocking that crop around, predominantly when things like phacelia and mustard and buckwheat have come to flower head. We actually want to stop the cover crop from just going to flower and setting seed, because when these plants go to seed, they switch from putting energy down into root exudation into filling that seed. So we want to keep a cover crop throughout the summer months actually engaging with the soil, putting all its energy into helping that soil and not seed. So actually chopping the heads off with a batwing mower, so the crop's about 6 inches high, letting it regrow again, or in this case, using a cultivation of some sort, be it a drill as we tried here, or a tine cultivator, or even a roller. You could go through and knock that cover crop around so that you remain in control of what it's doing. Because we're putting in 8 species, also what happens when we knock back the early establishing species in the cover crop and the early flowering ones, you give the chance of some of the clovers and the linseeds to fill in the bottom, and you get a second flush of a sort of a completely different cover crop stand. So that's really useful as well. And obviously you don't get that option if you're only putting in 1 or 2 species. The other thing we can see in the bottom of this wheat crop, as Jeff said, it's an excellent wheat crop, but we've got this residue from the cover crop that we grew here. Again, there'll be 8 different types of residue in here, plus the previous cereal straw or cereal crop residue. Cereal crop residue is very high carbon to nitrogen ratio. So what we're trying to do by introducing these other residues is alter the carbon to nitrogen ratio in our favour in the field. So reduce that carbon nitrogen ratio, put in residues that degrade and break up and decompose really quite quickly, as opposed to just cereal straw. And the cover crops give us the opportunity to do that. Again, if we pick the wrong cover crop, we could find we're putting in a straw that's just as difficult to break down as the cereal straw is, and then we're not really making progress. So if you see lots and lots and lots of residue sitting on your surface, it's not degrading away, that's sort of a warning sign that the carbon to nitrogen ratio is wrong. It's too high in favour of the carbon. If we've got residue that is decaying away really quite quickly, so we've got a bit of residue lying down through the centre of the wheat here, but it's not overly thick. Next door there's next to nothing. It's disappearing, the worms are taking it in. It's a nice amount of residue. I'm happy that our carbon nitrogen ratio is working for us in here. And that is a key point to remember when we're looking at how we're getting our soil to function. If we stick the spade in and open the soil up, we can, let's pull this out, we can see that we've got a really nice crumb structure in there as well. It's full of roots, both old roots from the previous cover crop and new roots from the wheat that's now growing in here. We've got plenty of wormholes visible for us. There's plenty of worm middens on the surface where they're gathering that residue together. So we know we've got a really healthy worm population. The soil has infiltrated that moisture really well. It's even moisture all the way through the soil. It's not being hung up anywhere. Again, we've got a lovely even distribution of aggregate sizes. Organic matter in the form of roots all the way through there. So soil's in really nice condition. Even to depth in this soil. Nice big fat worm in there, and the recent rains have woken up the worms again, so they're going to be busy throughout the summer. There's a young anisic worm there, no collar on, so he's a juvenile, nice flat tail. That is an anisic worm, so you know, deep working worm, also utilising the residue on the surface, managing our residue for us rather than just using cultivation. So all going on in here, everything working as we want it to, but we are focusing in on getting all the aspects right rather than just hoping sticking a cover crop in is going to be beneficial. What type, what are our targets to achieve, and then we can get it right more often than getting it wrong.